Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Hopefully you're having a great day today. It is Wednesday, June the 19th, and if you didn't know, we do have a new tropical storm, a named storm that's out there, Tropical Storm ALBERTO, becoming the first named storm of the 2024 hurricane season. It was potential tropical cyclone number 1, but it has now been upgraded out there, so we are looking at a new tropical storm. So we're going to get into a lot of these different things, but first of all, we're talking about the traffic cams, and so far we haven't seen a whole lot of rain out there, some light rain and drizzle for the most part, but it does appear that we're going to be seeing some widely scattered showers and a few thunderstorms a little bit later this afternoon. So let's go ahead and get right to ALBERTO. 22.2 north and 95 degrees west. Winds are at 40 miles per hour. Reconnaissance aircraft finding a better circulation, at least a closed low according to the satellite imagery, and we've also taken some buoy data that's out there along with the reconnaissance aircraft. The reconnaissance aircraft showing a pressure that's dropped off to 995 millibars. So it is a bona fide tropical storm now with those winds at 40 miles per hour. And you can see there is a very, very broad circulation that covers a big part of the Gulf of Mexico, and it actually extends down into the Pacific Ocean as well, and it's pulling in some moisture off the Caribbean too. But we are starting to see a little bit more of a tightening, and there's a lot more convection here over the southeastern side of the system. It was pretty void of anything. Most of the action was way out here, which has dissipated a little bit more, but you kind of see how this constant flow that comes in toward the Texas Gulf Coast, well, there's a lot of flooding that's going on, tidal flooding that's happening along the Gulf Coast. And if you want to check it out, post a link in the description below, a video from another YouTube channel. It's some drone video from Surfside Beach, which is right about in this area near Rockport, Texas. And tremendous flooding happening. And we've also gotten some reports of some coastal flooding here along the Louisiana coast as well, with some tides running well above normal. Therefore, even though the system is way out here, the impacts are being felt all across the Gulf of Mexico. So another vantage point on the floater satellite. The satellite kind of moves along with the system itself. It's a general westward track, and we're already seeing the heavy rains approaching parts of the Texas Gulf Coast and the Mexican Gulf Coast as well. There is its latest position, but I want to point out your attention to the orange cover, the orange shading that's out there. That orange shading represents where the tropical storm force winds are. So anything over 39 miles per hour, and you can see that wind field is quite big. It's immense here, in fact, across already affecting deep South Texas, much of the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico. We've even seen some tropical storm force winds encroaching in our far offshore waters. Now, our far offshore waters are 20 to 60 nautical miles away from the coast. So everything out there is under a tropical storm warning. Everything that's within those coastal waters 20 miles out from the coast is under a small craft advisory. So I'm sure there are a lot of folks that are out on the offshore rigs that are watching some pretty rough seas and experiencing some very gusty winds all over this area where we have the oil rigs and the oil field patch there out in the Gulf of Mexico. I also wanted to show you real quick some of the actual winds that have been observed, and we're starting to get a few areas of tropical storm force winds out here in the middle part of the Gulf of Mexico, right there near the center of circulation, perhaps getting up to 40 or 45 miles per hour. But even across the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico here, we're seeing winds anywhere between 25 and 35 knots. So you're starting to approach tropical storm force winds. Now remember, out over the Gulf of Mexico, there's no friction out there, so those winds can just haul across the tops of the waters there. And then once the winds reach land, not only do they weaken somewhat, but they also twist and turn a little bit more, so you end up having the possibility of some big thunderstorms that could produce some small tornadoes at times. Now, locally, we don't have a lot going on as far as rain is concerned, but I do think with the daytime heating that we will eventually start to see some development out here. But you see pretty much all of the development has been out here in the Gulf of Mexico, and most of it is surging over toward the Texas Gulf Coast. So any of those areas that are there from Galveston getting on down to around where we were talking about Surfside Beach, that's a little bit farther down toward the south. We have seen those very, very strong winds, and it looks like we've even got a tornado warning there right around Rockport, which is one of those areas that we've seen. That we have been able to see. Let me see if I can get this to go here. Those higher tides, and in fact that video that I've got linked below is showing that particular area there. So again, a tornado warning, and you've also got some special marine warnings and even a flood warning over here toward Corpus Christi. And those folks are very far away from the center of circulation. So this is a very sloshy system that's out there and will continue to cause some impacts several hundred miles away from that area. So again, the coastal flooding has been running anywhere between 1 and 3 feet along the South Texas coast, and then getting up to 4 or 5 feet anywhere from Corpus Christi going up to the Louisiana state line. And even here along the Louisiana coast, we've seen some storm, I wouldn't call it storm surge, but we've seen some much higher than average tides right here along the Cameron Parish coast, about 3 to 4 feet above normal high tide levels. So when the next high tide comes around, there could still be some coastal flooding as that water is piling up. So some roadways right along the coast could have some flooding and may be impassable. Let's look at real quick at some of the computer models. They're pretty much all in agreement on where this is going to go. It's going to drift westward, and the center of circulation is going to reach the Mexican coast. And the intensity forecasts really haven't changed a whole lot from yesterday, keeping it as a minimal tropical storm, maybe getting our way up to 40 or 45 mile per hour winds, but this is only going to be for the next 48 hours. After that, it interacts with land, and of course we start to see those wind speeds really drop off as it moves inland. Now, as far as the water temperatures, there is a pocket of some water temperatures here over the western part of the Gulf of Mexico that Alberto might be starting to tap into. 30-degree plus Celsius waters, so that's 86 degrees or higher on the Fahrenheit scale. So there are very, very warm waters for the system to work with, and we just got the update on the brand new tropical cyclone heat potential. And if you're not familiar with this, this is not just the water temperature being 80 or above at the surface, but how deep those warm waters go. And there are a couple of areas here over the western part of the Atlantic, or rather the western part of the Gulf, that has some higher than average heat content, not quite as extreme as what we're seeing out here over the Caribbean, but definitely a little bit of extra fuel for Tropical Storm Alberto to work with as it moves toward the Mexican coastline. So right around that center of circulation, don't be surprised if we see these winds go up to 45 or maybe even 50 miles per hour prior to landfall, which should occur sometime either tonight or early tomorrow. So enough on Tropical Storm Alberto. What else is out there? Well, we do have one area that's being watched over the western part of the Atlantic. Got a little piece of energy that broke off from a big front that was out in the middle part of the Atlantic, and that is kind of spinning off and is forecast to move off to the west. It's got a low-end chance for development over the next several days. But down here to the south, remember this is Tropical Storm Alberto, but normally all of this around it would be shaded in red. Well, the yellow shade that we have in here is actually indicating something else that might spin up around this broad low pressure area sometime this weekend and could possibly make its way very similar on track to where Tropical Storm Alberto is. Now, are we going to have a new tropical storm? Not sure just yet. Tropical depression? Maybe, or maybe even a potential tropical system. But when you look at the Mexican satellite here, you can see that low pressure area is very broad. It goes from the Louisiana Gulf Coast around Mexico and then up through the Yucatan like that. So it's a huge area. And there's a lot of moisture that's out here in the Pacific as well. And there is an indication that maybe low pressure could start to develop and swing swing around and then come back into the Bay of Campeche. So early next week, or maybe this weekend at the earliest, we might have another low out there that could take the same track as Tropical Storm Alberto. So things starting to get a little bit busier. There's tons of moisture out in the central part of Central America and the western part of the Caribbean. Although there's not a lot going on in the Caribbean, you got a pretty big upper trough that's currently moving westward here. So you can see the rotation kind of counterclockwise there, but this is high in the atmosphere, not down in the surface. So this is that little blob that the National Hurricane Center is watching to kind of move off toward the northwest, toward the U.S. East Coast, but really that's about it. And you've got a tropical wave that's out here in the eastern part of the Caribbean, and another tropical wave that's farther out that is expected to roll into the southwestern or southeastern Caribbean here sometime in the next couple of days, bringing some more rains. There's also another tropical wave about here, another tropical wave out here, which looked very impressive yesterday, but there is a lot of Saharan dust that's out in this area and some drier air as well. So that will impact any development there. And on the eastern Atlantic satellite, as we were showing you yesterday, we had a real big blob of convection here. It's now moved out here. It doesn't look very impressive. Again, you got all the Saharan dust and some drier air up here, so that will be impacting anything trying to develop over the central part of the Atlantic Ocean. So just for fun, we are going to peek at the GFS model, and you've got one system moving onshore, another low that could possibly develop this weekend and move into the Mexican coastline early next week, and then there's also another system that might try to develop. The earlier computer models were indicating something over the central Gulf, but the GFS and the Euro backing off just a little bit. Now they're pretty certain that after Alberto goes ahead and moves inland, that there might be another low developing around here. And if you watch the next few frames here, it will start to slide out of Central America. And there it is, right there, moving westward toward Mexico. So that's actually a different low pressure area. And then farther down the road, look right in here, as another wave of moisture might be moving northward. Again, some of the earlier models were showing yet another low pressure area trying to develop. Last couple of runs have backed off on it, but it is something that we tend to watch for trends. That way we can give you as much advance notice of anything developing as possible. Now, as we look at the hurricane season, June is not really that busy. We generally get about one or two during the month of June. July actually usually has a little bit less activity before it really starts to ramp up there into August and September. So we still have plenty of time to be ready for hurricane season. And while there are no storms affecting us and all of the supplies are out there, these are the things that you can do right now. Getting your batteries, your flashlights, water, and non-perishable foods. I know I still have to look for the rest of the flashlights that I couldn't find from the severe weather event we had about a month ago. First aid kit needs to be full. Make sure you've got refills on your medicine, or at least you know how much medicine you have. And if you do need to get refills, where are you going to get those if you have to leave the area? Personal hygiene items and house cleaners are always good to have on hand. Maybe a little extra, that way when the hurricane season comes into full force later this year, you'll have all these things. IDs, insurance, important papers. Most of those you have. Gather those and take them with you in a watertight container, but even better, you can take pictures of all of those and have digital versions of these documents on your smartphone as a backup. Make sure you got a basic tool set if you're going to be staying at home. Entertainment for the kids, whether you're staying at home or you're getting in the car. You know you need to have stuff for the kids to do, and it can't be run on electricity or batteries. So do keep that in mind. And of course, all the pet supplies, make sure you have that all together ahead of any tropical systems that might affect our area. So just to review, Tropical Storm Alberto is at 22.2 north and 95 degrees west with winds at 40 miles per hour. We will be getting another update shortly before 1 o'clock. And if you follow my social media pages, I'll have the updates there. So just wanted to remind you of everything that's going on. If you do like Let's Talk Tropics, please like this video and subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications. And always remember that Acadiana Weather Today is broadcast from Acadiana for Acadiana. All corporate decisions are made right here in my house in Lafayette, Louisiana. So this is definitely all for Acadiana. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you on Acadiana Weather Today tomorrow morning around 7:30. Have a great day.